So we're located in Alcalde, New Mexico, about 30 miles north of Santa Fe. This place was a dude ranch 100 years ago, and then the university got most of the property in about 1950 and began a research station at that time. And so it's about 70 years now since we've been doing research here. So it's primarily crop and soil type research. So through the years we've looked at a number of different crops, and let's say the last 20 years we had a researcher that focused on medicinal herbs for a number of years, high value medicinal herbs growing for local markets. In more recent years we've looked at high tunnel structures or hoop houses for extending the growing season, in particular for growing winter greens. And we've focused on, in that particular study, we focused on growing during the coldest months of the year, December through February, using high tunnels without supplemental heat. We're in a cooler part of the state compared to the south and the eastern portions of the state, south and southeastern parts. What makes New Mexico unique is the great diversity in topography and length of growing season and types of agriculture occurring around the state. There are 12 branch research stations or science centers like this one in the state. And one of the reasons is there's such a diversity in, like I said, growing season and different types of agriculture around the state. And so in order to meet the needs of agriculture around the state, there's a need for a number of different science centers or research stations. And another major project that we've been collaborators on is what we call acequia hydrology. And we are trying to understand where the water goes when it enters these traditional community irrigation systems up here called acequias. I personally have spent a lot of my time collaborating on that research. Alcalde and in the valley here, we're really right in the heart of acequia country. Most of not all, acequias are in different parts of the state, but the great majority of them are in the north central part of the state. So acequias are the traditional, it refers both to the canal and to the governing body that oversees the canals, or the canal particular one. We belong to the Acequia de Alcalde, and they're an important part of the actual method of getting water to the fields, so they're an important part of the region here, important part of the landscape, and important part of the culture.
I've been editing a book on acequias and in terms of climate change and urban population growth. I also have a small research plot that I'm looking at native pollinators within, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. It was put out by the Xerces Society and a few other Michigan State universities, and what you're basically doing is going within a field plot and counting within a certain amount of time how many native bees you see within the reproductive part of the flower. And from there you are comparing either over years or different plots as to how native bees are doing. So I'm comparing not only over 3 years worth of data gathering, but also between an alfalfa plot that's been established within Alcalde for quite a few years compared with the wildflower plot that I have established within the last 2 seasons. Within that wildflower plot, it's all native plants. There's a whole list that I have up on the website of what's in that plot. Not only am I counting the bees by going out and counting the bees within a certain trajectory, I'm also collecting them in what's called bee traps, and that's these bowls, and they're colored yellow and blue. They can't see red actually, and so what these are bowls. They're very simply spray painted, and I put them out with water and with soap in them, and so when the bee thinks it's a flower, they fly towards it and they fall in, and so hence they're trapped. And then from there we send them off and they're pinned. So New Mexico in general has such little research in terms of native bees, probably one of the least researched states in in the United States. And we also have some of the greatest diversity of native bees. So out of the 4,000 species of native bees in North America, we have 1,000 right here in New Mexico. I think we're only topped by perhaps California and maybe Utah. And the reason for that is that our native bees, most of them are ground nesters, and they really like the soil that we have here. And so what I'm hoping to do is contribute to that larger body of knowledge and open up a bit of that black box, as well as look at what does it look like to have a traditional crop like alfalfa planted as a cover crop in terms of comparison with wildflowers, which are continually blooming throughout the season. They aren't cut, and perhaps they can be an added benefit to a farm as a pollinator space. And overall, really, the project is hoping to contribute to this larger question of can native pollinator habitat be considered beneficial use of acequia water? And we're working towards that, answering that question, or at least a small part of it through this project.